Welcome to the Sacred Knock podcast, where divine wisdom speaks and the heart listens. There's a knock, a sacred one. You may not hear it with your ears, but your soul knows it well. I'm your host, Coach Michael Taylor, inviting you into a sacred space of spiritual awakening, divine insight, and conversations that remind you of who you really are. So, open the door and let your soul receive the wisdom it's been waiting for. Welcome to the Sacred Knock podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sacred Knock podcast, where the intention is to share insights and wisdom to support you in having a direct relationship with the divine. Today, I have the privilege of introducing a remarkable woman whose life and work have been devoted to healing, compassion, and helping people find meaning in some of life's most challenging moments. My guest is Dr. Jacqueline Pressey, and Dr. Pressey is a spiritual guide. She's an educator, she's an author, and former hospital chaplain who spent more than a decade walking alongside individuals and families during times of illness, uncertainty, grief, and transition. Her work has taken her into hospital rooms where life begins, where life ends, and where people often find themselves asking the deepest questions of the human experience. Why am I here? What really matters? How do I find peace in the midst of suffering? What makes her journey especially fascinating is that she describes herself as spiritual rather than religious. Her path has been shaped not only by study and service, but also by her own personal healing journey. Through profound health challenges, periods of transformation, and countless encounters with people facing life's most difficult circumstances, she has developed a unique perspective on spirituality, resilience, purpose, and the power of human connection. Known by many as the Singing Chaplain, Dr. Pressey has spent years bringing comfort, hope, and healing to those who need it most. Her life reminds us that spirituality is not merely something we believe, it's something we live, embody, and share with others through our presence, compassion, and willingness to serve. So today we're going to explore her spiritual journey, what she learned from years of chaplaincy, how suffering can become a doorway to deeper awareness, and the wisdom she has gained from standing at the crossroads of life, healing, and human transformation. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Pressey to the show. Hello, Dr. Pressey, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Like, who is that you were talking about?
So your website says you've been on a healing journey since infancy, and that many of your health struggles ultimately led you into ministry and hospital chaplaincy. So looking back, do you see a divine thread connecting all of those experiences?
Absolutely, and more so as you are aging. They begin to reveal themselves, even though that, when you know that you are hitting into destiny and you know that you're walking in it, it's very different. When you're kind of off kilter, but the minute you hit it, you know that you're in it. And as I've been aging, different stories come about, even from my sisters and brothers, that let me know that what I didn't understand was I thought I was off course. I was actually really very much on course. And I say that to say, why am I saying that? I just turned 65 in July 11th. My oldest sister came and everybody, to celebrate me. And she told me a story. Now, she's in her 70s. And she told me a story about me. In the hospital, they had, I didn't know she was in that room. I read my mother's diary of me. So I read my baby book, and that's the last entry my mother put in it. My other sister found it and gave it to me a couple of years ago. So when my oldest sister told me the story that she was in the room, she was in the room. In 60 something years, I didn't even know that she was in the room. So what my mother wrote, my sister saw. And so at this birthday, the Lord allowed her to reveal to me that she witnessed what my mother wrote. And here's what it was. They were going to take me off life support. I was 6 months old. Okay. They were going to take me off life support. And I was like, why would they have you in the room? Okay. And she says, there was the three of us. When they did take me off life support at 6 months,
Wow.
mhm, there was a chaplain in the room. And my mother wrote it. My sister saw it. And I just found out that she saw it a month ago. She said, "Yeah, they took you off life support. You turned and you smiled at the chaplain. Hence, that's when I became a chaplain there.
Wow.
And my entire life, not sickly, living in and out of the hospital. You know, it's some of who I am, and it is what it is. But I found that through the experience or the suffering, you learn to have a grit that can only be divinely inspired. So when I heard that, I said, you know, I was upset about having to be a chaplain. I was going someplace else, another direction in my life, and I was injured. And to be reminded of what his intention was for me from birth. He kept me here. And throughout my lifespan, I kid you not, I have had to outlive prognosis is that I have 5 years, many times. Doctors saying, I don't think you know, after 5 years, 32, 40, 45. And the 45, he wanted to put me in the hospital right away. I said, I got the kids are coming home. I got to get home. If I'm still feeling the way I do, I'll go after I get them settled. He says, I don't recommend, I want to have somebody take you over to the hospital. I said, no, 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 no. I got the kids coming. And he says, I'll be right back. I said, okay. Came back with a letter. And the letter I had to sign, I had to waive the fact that he says she's dying and she will not go to the hospital. And I signed it and I went and got my kids. And that was at 45. And
So,
so,
Dr. Pressey, let me back up just a moment. So, what I'm hearing is number one, at a very early age, you experience what some people might call tragedy, trauma, whatever.
yes,
But
yes,
yet, you now see that as actually part of God's plan for your life.
yes,
As
yes,
you went through all these other challenges, it seems like
yes,
you, is it accurate to say that you've always felt that God has been guiding you even through those difficult times?
yes. Even when I'm kicking and screaming, I still obey. That's the thing. We think oh, I'm so happy. No, sometimes it's not like that. I've had a many conversations in prayer where I've been upset, and the thing is, if I can't share that with the Lord, we're in trouble. And He gave me that privilege to say, I knew it all the time. You know, I was like, I'm done. Many times I've said, I'm done. I'm walking away from, I know this calling, everything that you say, or what, all of this. I'm done. And because it was too hard.
Yeah.
And in response was, this is so great, but this is so scriptural.
Right. Now, with that being said, okay, so obviously you've had lots of challenges in your life, and this podcast is built on a concept called the sacred knock, which again, I think is just God's way of getting our attention about
Yes.
certain things. So, in your experience, you've mentioned all the challenges, but was there one really big sacred knock that you experienced that made you go, "Oh, I know there's a God, not just I believe there's a God"?
Um, Probably early on as a child. And I'll say that because my family was raised Catholic. You know, something when you experience the death sentences, if you please, as a child and being sickly, everybody having to take care of me, having to, you know, do the things that they had to do, you do, it matures you in a different way. And I had conviction again, my family was Catholic. So my parents would send us to church and not necessarily go to church. I was raised catechism, confirmed, all of those wonderful things. But for me, it wasn't enough as a child. And so my parents had to deal with the fact once I was coming up that I didn't want to be Catholic, that I wanted to go to a holiness church. And I used to have to do, like you want to go to sports, kids go to sports and stuff like that and want to do piano and ballet and all of that. I had to do church because I had to fight for that. Listen to what I just said. I had to fight for that. Matter of fact, if I didn't do everything that I was supposed to do, I would, I can't even believe this, but it's true. I would go on punishment and they would punish me, taking me that I couldn't go to church as a child. And so when they finally gave up, because I was serious about it. I mean, I was probably a missionary before I was 16. I was teaching Sunday school at 14. And then I had parents that weren't as spiritually in tune like that. And so finally a pastor came and talked to them and said, listen, I'll, make sure she's safe. I'll bring her home, whatever you want. She wants to be here with us. And the rest is history. I've had many, yeah.
And that was in the Catholic Church?
That I was when I left the Catholic Church and went to, I went to Kojic, Pentecostal.
Gotcha. Now, so based on that, now you describe yourself as spiritual rather than religious, which I think a lot of people are now identifying with. So how would you make a distinction between someone who's religious and someone who's spiritual?
Religion is man-made too, and I'll say it is. We have sometimes someone's interpretation of what it is. I say I have relationship. I have a relationship over religious. I stopped being religious years ago. What you're hearing, what I'm saying to you is, I perpetually live in relationship where no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, what I'm teaching, whatever, I don't put on the different robes and garments. These three are one. It's always say that joke. I'm like, these three are one. And yes, I know I'm teacher. Yes, I'm pastor. Yes, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I don't change up on people. This is because if I'm my authentic self, and I'm going to address that in that is very much being spirituality, becoming your authentic self and being true to who that is. And if that is something that takes you out of the crowd, you need to be okay with that. And you need to be comfortable in your own skin to be your authentic self. Why am I saying that? Why am I talking about spirituality? Why is my dissertation spirituality? Why am I getting ready to do what I'm getting ready to do? Let me just tell you why. My dissertation, I started the doctoral program in 2004. When they interviewed me, they said, what are you interested in? Well, I was in fitness. So the 6 dimensions of wellness, the one area that they didn't address was spirituality. I did all of it, did all the other things. I did them all in my classes. The spirituality one, people thought it was religion, so they were afraid of it. And so here I come along with this dissertation that wants spirituality and leadership as it relates to purpose, meaning in life's beliefs and connectedness to each other in this world. Because I was looking at students and they had no idea of who they were. And so, which means you pick a career that, oh, it makes money. Mommy and daddy told me, you're doing it for everybody else. And you fail at it because it was never your fit. And so I had to realize it. So then I get this dissertation that's taken 21 times it was rejected, 19 years. And you know why? I didn't realize then, and I'll say this to you. I know we've skewed a little bit, but we need to, because that was a divine moment for me. Was I going to stand and to be true to what was revealed in the life that, so I see the Bible as practical. It's in the doing. I don't see it like, oh, these laws that I have to keep. I see it telling me what to do. So when I did this dissertation, and the outcomes became that people, and you're going to hear about this, but later, and when we do the Sala, I did a quantitative study that was being slaughtered. That means I didn't choose what the outcomes were. The data, a national study, got buried. You know why? Very simple. The threat of the thought that you were not your authentic self is what my dissertation said. That you will conform to a culture of an institution or wherever you are in order to fit in order to get tenure, in order to be on the president's board. You'll do those things. And we do that in the church. We will, he has called us to be, and he talks about the fivefold. I joke about this all the time, but it's very serious. God was real clear in his word, the organizational chart, the structure that he wanted his church to be in. That's not optional. We all have different roles in that. If I go outside the role that I've been called to do, I am messing up the culture of the institution. If I'm coming in and you quote, just say for instance, if I'm not being my true authentic self, how am I going to teach students to be? I'm not going to have the skill set to do it because I'm perpetrating a fraud.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where, and as you can see, this is deep.
Oh no, I'm with you 100%. This is basically what I've been teaching with my work. Again, I'm definitely not a minister, but you said something that's really important, which is your authentic self. Now, I believe, again, this is Michael Taylor's belief, your authentic self is literally your God self. It is your connection to the divine. And I look at it, the image that I create for people to make it easy to understand. I want you to imagine that there's two aspects of you when you're born. There's what I call your little s self, self with a little s, and your big S self, self with a big S. So your big S self is your divine self. It is your God self. Your little s self, what some people might call your ego, is the thing that creates all of the chaos in your life. When you're operating from that little s self, you're disconnected from God, in my understanding, and you can't fully authentically express who you are and what God put you on earth to do. So what I hear you're saying is our goal, first and foremost, is to be our authentic selves. And I truly align with that. Now, with that being said, I want to dive into this because you served as a hospital chaplain for 10 years. And I think you were at Georgetown University Hospital. Was that?
Yeah, 3 years. That's where I did my clinicals, and
Okay.
I got that is baptism by fire for real. But I had been one 3 years prior. I wanted to. I'm just my personality or whatever. Sometimes you get these cases that you don't feel qualified to be like you're like this. Help me. And you want to give your best self, and I'm a person that way. And so I started looking into wanting to be surrounded by others who could relate, and I'm glad I went to Georgetown. I got accepted, and they actually brought me in with the plan was they didn't have an apostolic pastor. And so it was an exchange because they were Catholic. They were trying to get experience with all different denominations to be able to reach the patients. So I was their first apostolic. And let me just tell you, I asked the Lord, why you sent me, excuse me, within 3 weeks. I said, you sent me where? I was like, are you sure? Because of they wanted it but it means you were breaking up who you were to have all of us in there. Let me just tell you, they have Muslim chaplains, they have Presbyterian churches, they have Buddha, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't have my area, and they brought me in, and I am so glad. It changed me forever, because here's the thing. One thing about the different denominations and the religions that, oh, and I'll say them that way, that are out, they all have a foundation. They may be different, but they all have a foundation. What they wanted their chaplains, and how I was trained, and I needed to be trained. If I hadn't have been trained the way they trained me, interfaith, that word is huge, because I fought it. And I thought God had made a mistake to send me, to have me go to some place where they were going to challenge the essence of who I was. But it was for the sake of the patients that we would see. So in turn, they had to take this Kojic apostolic woman and make her accept interfaith, which is called, he says, it's real simple. And it says, when you're talking about divine, yes, it's real simple. We have religion in that sense. But the Lord said, they'll know you, they'll know me by the love of the brethren. And that's what Georgetown taught me. Georgetown forced me 3 weeks in, telling me I said Jesus too much. Wrote me up. I got wrote up. It's in my file. Okay. And I was like, 3 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm going 4:30. You, what? I quit. And the Lord said, mm-mm. The challenge was I had to learn other names. I was livid when the Lord said, I have many names. What's the problem? Use them. And I started learning them. And in the end of that first year, where I can't tell you how many times I wanted to quit, because we were talking, they were walking the road of offending sister girl all the time. Wanted to take the cross down. Well, I'm not taking the cross down. They needed me too. We had to do interfaith services. I was assigned it. Why do you think they assigned me to do interfaith services? So I would learn how to be able to reach the masses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And interfaith means I have to love you more than preach to you. You have to see, you know what I'm saying? And we had a challenge. I was like, y'all, they said we had to take the cross down when we do interfaith, because it's close. You know what I'm saying? I says, so you're telling me, and this was the fight, you're telling me we're going to make it comfortable for everybody else but the denomination that I'm in, because the old rugged cross is important to me. But you're going to have, during the services, I could have Muslims doing their prayers on their blankets in the back of the chapel while I'm live streaming. Do you understand? And I said, there's no way you're going to make me take the cross. I'm not doing it. You can let me know if you want to. So my teacher says, I'll do it. I say, and you'll put it back up there, because I'm not doing it. Let me tell you that by the end of that year, he wrote, we got to get this right. I apologize. He says, you were right. And so sometimes when God wants to bring in change, it changed me. I'm grateful that I can walk into, and man, I've had a imam, and everybody says, why is he talking to you? Okay, they don't talk to women like that. The imam was in the hospital, and he sent his servants out of the room to conversation. I had conversation with him for 3 weeks.
Now let's I want to focus a little bit on being a chaplain, because I think this is really important, because as you just mentioned, if you're going to serve people, you have to basically get out of your own beliefs, interpretations, or whatever, and just be there for that person. And like you said, sometimes that person may be Muslim or Buddhist or whatever.
Yes.
And so it now becomes a relationship with another human being versus just a label. Okay. So I'm curious though, what was it that drew you to actually become a chaplain in the first place? I mean, why you could have been a minister or you could have been a lot of why being a chaplain? Why was that important?
Suffering. I was
Mm.
suffering. I was, and he was asking that of me while I was suffering. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like, how is going to believe that I'm a chaplain and I am hurt as I am? I was broke up. I think then I was probably in a wheelchair or whatever. And I saw it on the thing because I was living at the hospital. Yes, I have been in ministry. Yes, I've been a chaplain. I mean, I was on the Morgan campus and stuff like that. So I was a college one. But I'm now pulled from my career. It's over for me. I was grieving that who I once was is gone. And then you still put that in my face and want me to be happy about it. I was not. And I want to say something. What is a chaplain really? To serve you and to serve you in all seasons. And grief is one of them. But see, we think grief is just about death. I wasn't dead. I was grieving the loss of who I was, my dreams. I wasn't getting a doctorate to be a community college president. That's gone. So what do I do when I go in that room? And I tell them like an email, what do I do? What do you do when your only assignment, when you go into a patient that's sick and dying and you have no answers? You can't give them an answer. What do you say? If the Lord doesn't give me an answer, there is nothing I can say, but my presence that I carry can do a whole lot. They did call me to sing chaplain. You know why? Because I found it was my heart's desires to reach you at all costs. And I still believe that, to reach the lost at all costs. If we don't speak the same language, a song will go past that and they'll know who I am. If I have on my clergy, you know who I am, and we don't have the same language. And I'm not talking. I'm letting you grab. I keep extra crosses because when someone's dying, they're grieving for, they want to grip, they would save me. I've had my crosses yanked off my neck numerous of times. Different, nationalities recognize the cross, even though we don't speak the same language. Sobbing, I'm singing them, Yes, Jesus Loved You sometimes. And that's all, that's what he gives me, because if you don't understand me, it doesn't matter what I say, except for what God tells me to say. I want to comfort you. That's all I care about. Listen to what I want to comfort you. That's it. If I know I'm going in that room, and most times when they call us, I get a code. It's either, the codes are we call it comfort care. That means I'm going to help you leave. You're dying. And I know that before I get there. Okay. But when I get in that room, my prayer is, Lord, what you going to do? See, people don't realize that. Healing is both ways. Healing's if it keeps you here. I need to know that be discussing that if he's going to heal you here, you need a life change, because that's why you're in the hospital, because you didn't take care of you. That's a healing here. A healing there where he's going to take you. I have to prepare you for that too, because I have an assignment to seek the lost at all costs. That means I don't care who you are, color of your skin. You care more about that than me. Okay. And sometimes, I care about the last thing that an unconscious patient loses is their hearing. So they still hear me. When I'm saying, just say, remember me. Just say, take me. just say, forgive me. That's it. You ain't got time for no big. And once that spirit leaves the body, that's between them and God. That has nothing to do. I just need to, if you're not sure where you going, whatever you live, and guess what? I'm gonna mind my own spiritual business. I'm gonna do my job. That's what we need to do with each other. We don't know the last breath moments. They're only between the Lord and you. So you can't declare, oh, they made it to heaven. How you know? Oh, they didn't make heaven. They went to hell. How do you know? We don't know that moment when that spirit, you have an opportunity to change your direction before your spirit leaves the body. Scripturally, it says, your spirit returns to the Lord when it leaves the body. It didn't say the good, the bad, the ugly. It says the spirit, where we spend eternity, is determined by the Lord. So I just think that, yes, am I sold out? Yes, did I get the I got the plan and didn't get the plan.
Right.
I got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had to yield. So I'm saying to you, there is no such thing as a perfect Christian or perfect,
Yeah.
child of God. It doesn't exist.
Now, with that being said, now as a chaplain, and you're in that situation where maybe somebody is close to death. So is it more important to have the right words, or is it more important to simply be present?
Be present, because sometimes, what is it? We got to be okay to be quiet. I just learned, if he don't give me nothing to say, I'm not saying nothing. And that's huge, because we're always trying. And when I first started, I was like, I gotta have something to say to make you feel better. No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
No, I learned that later. I learned, oh my God, the chaplain life took me on this journey. That's why I said I owe. The things and the stories that I've had, and the patience that I've had to encounter and comfort, took me to a whole nother level. I've been kicked out of rooms. I've been cussed out. I've been hit in the head. A 13-year-old did that.
Wow.
And the father said, I'm so sorry. Okay. And so you're vested, but you're a different way. I did be in the operating room. They called for a chaplain down there. The person coded 3 times before I got there. And they were working on him when I got there. And the lines were flat. And I'm sitting there. This is truth. These are some of the stories. This is an important one. Because let me just tell you, it was my first code down to the OR. And I saw 6 doctors or so, one straddled on top of the patient, blood everywhere. And you called for the chaplain. The doctors called for the chaplain. And I am at the door. Admin says, that's the patient in there. And nurse went in front of me while I was standing at the door. And one of the doctors said, who's that standing out there? And she said, oh, that's the chaplain. He screamed, dresser. He wanted me to come into the OR.
Wow.
And okay, you're talking about, and so they started rushing, because he's coded. He's already literally flatline. But they want the chaplain to come in and pray. Who can pray over all the stuff I was saying? I was scared to death. I have no idea what to pray. I'm trembling, and they're dressing me. And I got to come up with, quote, theology, mature prayer. That's not what God gave me. Let me tell you what he did give me. I'm standing at the door. It was okay, I'm talking to you. And you see how we're just talking. All of a sudden, they get me dressed. I have my hand on the door. The Lord knows I'm scared. I was like, what am I gonna, what help me? It was as if, please believe me, I'm not making this up. I'm telling you right now, please believe me, I'm not making it up. It was as if everything that was happening, was a lot of noise going on. It got quiet. Everything slowed down. I'm standing there. And I heard, now I lay me down to sleep. That's what I heard. That's a child's prayer. That's a child's prayer. Because the Lord knew I was scared. I didn't feel qualified to come up with something to pray over this situation. He took me all the way back to now I lay me down to sleep. That was all he gave me. And then everything speeded back up to the chaos. I put my hand on the door and I'm walking in. My hand was still on the door. And this is what I said. This is the only prayer I said. Lord, if he doesn't know you, he was 40-something-year-old black male, okay? Coded for the third time by the time I had got there. I said, Lord, if he doesn't know you, bring him back. That's all I said. It was because the Lord said, quit all the what you were like, I in the name of Jesus, quit all of that. He gave me the child's prayer to tell me, just pray like a child. I never made it to his bedside because the minute that was said, I had my hand on the door. The monitor started working. The doctor said, he's back. One got off the table. I never made it to say this theologian, eloquent prayer. They're high-fiving, telling me thank you. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I say that, and hear me out here. Hear me out here. Grief is not just death. Grief is the loss of a person that you were. Your job, what you made you be, is things. And if you lose those things, you cease to exist. And so then you'll grieve that. Grief takes on many forms. And so death to leave the body, but how about death of the soul? And I'm going to go back to here, death of your authentic self. Who was I when they said I can't teach my dance and aerobics? Who was I when I'm not going to be? I was going to move to North Carolina. They already had the college pick. I was already working on it for over a year, and I'm not going to be a VP of student affairs at the college down in North Carolina because I had to learn to walk again, and my daughter's now taking care of me. Really? Who are you then? Do we give up depending on your circumstances, depending on what happens on you? You're going to be somebody else, or you're going to be who you truly are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're spending too much time associating. And I'm sorry, I don't mean it. Well, you can tell, and I'm working really hard not to get teary because, and I say that because I teach chaplaincy. I still, on the side online, but it's academic first year experience, academic success. You know why? Because I've met so many students that are doing things that they weren't called to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I want to go back to this thing about being a chaplain because I know I can just imagine some of the conversations you've had with people, maybe that were, maybe on their deathbed, but maybe you just had an opportunity just to sit with them and just talk, right? So I'm curious, as a chaplain, what do what do a lot of people say they regret most about their lives when you're having that conversation, that knowing that they're about to leave?
Thank you for asking me that question. I have been asked that question many times, and it shocks people when I give the answer. When I am bedside, people says, "Oh, are they talking about that they're dying? Are they healing it?" No. talking about the things they need forgiveness for and regret.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, they're not talking about the money. They're not talking about the jobs. They're not talking about the cars. They're not talking about the love life. They're talking about unfinished things that they regret that they didn't finish. Hence, my life takes on another role, like trying to find the son at the wedding because the dad's down on the deathbed and he wants to say he's sorry. I had to find it running around trying to find, I'm sorry. This was important to the person. A dog to come and visit the last wishes of a patient.
Mm.
We did it. We were able to do it. I don't spend time on things, how much money, who you are on your deathbed. And matter of fact, this is not me being insensitive at all. So I'm going to say that. I am very sensitive and I can't believe I got to say that. But you are I know you're not, how do I say this? When you are still dealing with the fact that I'm a female and clergy, you're not sick enough.
Mm.
You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't, it doesn't offend me. Not a problem. I'll go see if I can find you a male clergy if you're more comfortable. And I had the wife come out the office because he wasn't nice about it. And she came out the room and pulled the door and she said, I am so sorry. I said, no, that's all right. I'll try to find him somebody to come in and see him. Then I realized you're not sick enough. Because if you are leaving here, I get grabbed on because they want me to rescue them. They want me to say a prayer to save them. They want to be healed, even though the Lord may have told me they're not. Because I have to know what's happening in that room. Listen to this is the presence of God that I carry. And sometimes it's not a word. I'm praying for you and your families around you. I'm praying for you and I'm not saying anything. I'm in the quiet of the room. Sometimes, and if you don't mind, this is what came to me. So I'm going to share the story, true story. Sometimes the person's unconscious. Sometimes the families is gathered because the same way I got the code, they got the word that he's getting ready to transition. I got called up and it was so thick in that room with the sobbing and the grief. I think people think, oh, I'm a chaplain or I'm a pastor or whatever, that we don't feel your pain. That's farthest from the truth. I have to be able to deal with that later. I can't deal with that now. I feel the grief that you're losing a loved one. I feel your pain, but I can't address mine when I need to address you and comfort you. So I feel it later on. My daughter's seen it. Don't want to get undressed for a couple of days because the grief of what happened in that room. But I'm going to say something about this. Don't know the people, never had met the people. This room had people full. You're only supposed to have no more than 3 or 4 people in there. And I came in there, the daughter and the wife was standing by the dead, and they had 3. That's why they come in and says, you got to help us. He is passing, but they got a hallway full of people. They got more people in there. So can you do something about it? Well, once they told me what I need to do, I called to get them a conference room before I'd even got up there, just to get the people out the hallway, because those are things that chaplains do. I walk in and I says, okay, listen, you can't be here. I've got you guys a room. We're going to get you refreshments and the family will be able to come back and let you know. I walk in. I can't It was so thick in that room that I just went beside the bed. I was like, okay, Lord, I need to hear you. I just closed my eyes and I had to add the presence. I couldn't budge it. So while my eyes were closed, I started singing. I couldn't do anything else. That's a gift he's given. So I just started softly singing. Bedside. They hit everybody crying. Next thing you know, I'm still down, my head's bowed, softly, just so I could hear the Lord, just to tell me what to do with all of this. How do I comfort them? And they're just all sobbing. The room took over singing with me. The hallway, 12 people that were supposed to be in that conference room took over singing with me. Guess who they were? I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was a pastor and he was a praise and worship and he wrote music and songs. And these people that were around him was his congregation and his choir. I didn't know any of that. But here's the last thing, and this is true. You can put on this is facts. We start talking. They laughing, telling stories, because those are the best exits. Memorials, bedside memorials, forget the funeral. They ain't there. They are still present and you can be in presence, they can still hear everything, seeing that you love them, seeing that all the things that they do, they appreciate, it's okay to rest, all those things. Cry later. Don't do that now. Let them leave and impart in just beauty and thanks and remembering awesome stories that make you laugh. I've had patients wake up from stories that I get their family members to say. This particular time, I said, "Listen, I hear this song. By name, we're talking." I said, "I hear this song in my head. I don't know it. It's these words. It kept going around in my head." And so the wife says, "Listen, we're all now having conversation. Before I couldn't cut the grief in that room with a knife. So we're now all having conversation." And I said to her, "Well, it sounds like this, and this is what the kind of the words are saying." So I say the words. And so she said, "Oh," she said, "My husband wrote that. The unconscious patient." "What are you talking about? Your husband?" She said, "Yeah, that's my husband's song." And so she says, "I'll start it. I'll feed you the words." And he left his body hearing his song. And I didn't know these people. Now wait, next in. Patient that was in a coma in another room on that same floor woke up. The nurse came in and says, "When you're done with them, can you go see this patient? He was in coma for the last month. He's up singing with you guys." That's the power of unity and connection and one accord, and someone bringing you into a place of peace and love and willing to suffer with you. Everybody wants to be up there when you got the money and the big and the parties and all that. Where are they when you are leaving? Okay.
So I'm curious, being around, let's just say death, being around these people that are, about to transition or whatever, with your experience, how has that shaped your view of life? And does it impact how you navigate through life after having experienced
Yes.
that?
Yes. That was a great question because I'm very different. And actually, when I got injured and all of this began to take, and I'm with you, I like me better now.
Mm.
Okay. And I remember going to a code and going to have to tell a family member that their matriarch was leaving. And I said, God, I'm all broke up, and just the injuries and partially disabled. And I was like, why do I like me better than when I was going to do the other things? And because when you get into true, divinely orchestrated purpose for your life, the other things don't matter. The things that like I had to do. The only thing I have to do is to seek the lost outcomes and leave here knowing that where I'm going. And I will tell you this on a natural side, can you imagine having a mother like me? Because my daughter has had to hear my affairs are in order. She has all the details. I don't want a funeral. Listen to what I'm saying. Why? Love me now.
Give me my flowers now.
Okay, hello. I can't see him and enjoy him. And she said, I want a concert. I want a party. I don't want a funeral. I'd rather have bedside memorial. Tell me how you feel about me, bedside. Because what I saw bedside, what I've seen bedside, they be saying their goodbyes. The person's unconscious. And they woke up and laughing with them because they were talking about the stupid stories. Because I said, I don't know. I said, tell me a little bit about, it was the family. I was like, tell me a little bit about, your dad. He was a pistol. He was a hot mess. And they started telling me stories about them. And they started laughing in a room where they're supposed to be crying and grieving. They were laughing at introducing me to their dad. Okay. You see what I had to usher in? Okay, it wasn't the one that I don't know what I'm supposed to do in that room until I'm given the instructions in the room. So when they were doing it, I didn't know the patient was going to wake up and start laughing with them. But the daughter needed him to. Here's what I'm saying.
I hear you.
The daughter needed him to. You know why? I had to follow her. She was hysterical. And I followed her out and left the other family members in the room. Come to find out, she's pregnant. Didn't get a chance to tell her dad that she's pregnant. She wanted to tell him that. Well, the Lord did that for her. Because while they started telling me, and all I asked was, tell me something about him so I know how to pray. You guys you have the information better than I do. And I want to make it personal. So I didn't plan for them to start telling me crazy stories and they started laughing. Well, I mean, we were dying. We forgot that we were supposed to be sad. But while we were talking, I was down at the other end of the bed because he was unconscious. He woke up and started talking with us. And everybody was like, what? And I said, hurry up. I'm telling the daughter, go tell him what you need to tell him. Wow. She went around the bedside. The brothers and the husbands moved on the side. She told her dad, I didn't get a chance to tell you that I'm pregnant, me and so we're gonna have a baby. He hugged. He says, oh, I'm so happy. You think he died that day? Mm. He did not die that day. Mm-mm. He didn't die the next day. He didn't die the next day. He died within the week. But they had time together. Mm-hmm. That's what we do.
Now, I think the majority of people are afraid of death. Me personally, I have zero fear of death. As a matter of fact, I can honestly say that I don't want to die right now, but I'm actually anticipating it. Because I believe there's something pretty remarkable on the other side. I don't know what it is, but that's just in my heart of hearts. I just believe there's something awesome on the other side. So with everything that you've been through, everything that you know, what are your thoughts on dying?
Oh, as sick as I have been, even as a child, I live fully. And I'll say this. I have tried to, quote, retire myself, bench myself, sit down because I might be in too much pain and you're still using me. Here's the caveat. Until the last breath, you have assignment. Now, what do you do with the fact is I'm trying to sit down. Look, I'm talking to you, assignment. I'm living and doing what I did, put out music that I had wanted to do. He has given me so much purpose. I'm not finished my course. And you can't leave. No one can leave here until you finish your course. And if he keeps giving you vision, purpose, things you got to accomplish, you're not going anywhere. Let me just tell you something. And I have to write down the things that he gives me to do. And when I think I'm sick, and they, like all the times I said, they, say, and then I get up and how are you gonna? I'm sick. Why are you telling me that? What? I put it this way: are you prepared? I'm prepared. Everything's in order. Don't cry. That's all I said. That she has, believe me, she had to walk down because she cried the whole 9 yards. Totally, the idea. Nobody wrote my obituary but me. Why is somebody going to write that? I'm living it. I am living what it should say. No one should write that for me. I should be writing it. I wrote it. My daughter has it. And I want to leave and just kind of wrapping up and everything, all details. She knows. I'm in the concert. I'll go have a party. I don't even want to be there because I'm not there. And I says, to be perfectly honest, my eulogy is very clear because I know my call. If I am to seek the lost, I'm going to do that to the last breath. So guess what my quote eulogy track is? That if you are reading this, let me be very clear, and now you have this on recording. If you are reading this, I'm gone. And most likely, you're wondering where my family is. They're gone too, because we were raptured. And I says, but I'm going to give you some instructions. How to make the second if you didn't make the first. And I tell you what to do to make heaven. That's my eulogy. And my peoples weren't there to celebrate me because they were with me in paradise. We all raptured up. And I believe wholeheartedly, if my daughter says, you are kidding me. She says, you wrote a track for your eulogy. Yes, I did. I told people how to be ready. There's a second pull after the first one, and there's some consequences for it. And it's not bad enough here. We're still here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so those are the type things I see death. If you can tell without me saying it, you see, I see death very differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And we should not. So I have to, if I know that I'm, at a certain point, or because I've spent most of my life from a child on overcoming health issues, he still uses me. He won't let me feel sorry. I can't feel sorry for myself. It is what it is. It gives me anointing to be a blessing to you. And I understand. What am I supposed to do? Yeah. What am I supposed to do when you use everything that I have been given? My healing, I'm only healed because I'm dispensing it. Listen to me. It has to flow out of me, which means I'm giving you my life force. I'm giving you the very thing that I need. He's going to keep it flowing out of me, which keeps me alive because I'm going to give it out. That is purpose in that. That is how you maintain. And I was like, come on, but it's true. What I've endured physically, personally,
yeah,
have been my PhD.
Absolutely. There you go. Graduated from the school of life.
Okay. For real, for real.
Yeah.
And I'm bedside. You don't know what to say. This is so funny. This guy, and we need to end, but he was, terminal. And so this is my first day. Somebody was taking me around the rounds to show me what I was going to do. The resident chaplain was taking me around. I came in, and I wasn't scared because I had been doing chaplaincy 3 years ago. So he didn't know that. So I came to the bedside, and the patient, the husband, put his hands on my hand. And when he did it, he grabbed my hand. And when he put it on my hands, I felt this. He was shaking. He was shaking. I know that. He was shaking because he's in so much pain. Tears coming out. He's shaking, but his wife is there, so he wants to be strong for his wife. But he grabs my hand, but I can feel it. And so I said to him, it cut it for a minute. I said to him, I said, did they come around and give you the pain schedule? Because I saw it on the wall. And he said, yes. I said, yeah, they come in here, ask me that stupid question, every hour to see if they need to get, sedate me, right, while I was in the hospital. And he said, yeah, he said, and it said 0 to 10. Is what it is. Get from a 0 to 10. And I said, that was a joke. 10, I was like 12 to 20, maybe. And he busted out laughing. So I said, so what's your pain level? He said 12. and he started laughing. And his wife got up, and they were standing, and they started laughing. And guess what? Up until they moved him into hospice, I agreed to give them my lunch. I was come and see him no chaplain job description gave me that. Yeah. I gave them my lunchtime to see them because I was in school while I was doing this. Okay, to be a chaplain, I was being trained, but I gave them my lunchtime. What are you going to give up? Who are you going to be? What are we going to do with that life that we have? That person, she called me when he did finally expire. Okay, because the connection, did nobody care today? They didn't know me before now. Yeah. Who cared?
Got it.
They didn't know, that I was all broke up. Except for I told, the inside scoop is we were woo 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 because woo woo woo, you understand. And I had to come back and tell my classmates. I was trying to keep my pain a secret. And then my teacher says they could probably better help you if you would tell them that every time they see you, you are injured. Mm. When I told them, I became the orthopedic guru. So whenever my classmates would get a patient that was on the orthopedic, broke neck, fractured back, knee, all of that, they would pass them to me. Who's being passed to you? Who's being passed to you? Mm. Are you willing to be vulnerable, transparent, open the book of your life? Let's show your failures. Mm. show your vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
That makes a chaplain.
That's what makes a chaplain. Now, as we wind down, I want to give you an opportunity. Do you have contact information, website, blog site, where people can contact you if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Yes. Well, my website is www.ReCreationsMinistries.com. My email is recreations07@gmail.com. I am on LinkedIn as an associate professor at UMGC. I still teach academic success about 4 times a year. That's a ministry all in itself. I still care. And I hope you get that. It's only when you don't care, it might be time for you to stop.
Yeah.
I still care, which means I want to jack you up when you're doing something stupid. I still care. And my kids are 45, 44, and 42. And you make me want to beat you. That means I still care about you, which means I'm going to tell you the truth. And am I online? And have I had students crying with me online? I absolutely have. Have I had to jack a student up online? Absolutely have. Especially if you give me permission to. I ask permission because I'm not a warm fuzzy feeling. Okay. I ask permission, especially because I may, I got facials I gotta work on sometimes. And if you saying something stupid, I'll be like, Lord. And so because we they need us.
Absolutely.
And I'm talking about in all arenas, they need us to be real. Like, I know it's not my business. Do you give me permission to say something? The young lady did. I'll bust out laughing and I'm gonna stop on her. This is on the academic side. She was telling me she's failing 2 weeks into the course, hasn't done the assignments. I'm listening to her, so I meet with her. We're live. And she was like, she wanted me to give her a chance, a grade, whatever. She wanted me to listen. I'm choosing my words specifically. I don't give you nothing. I'm the secretary or the accountant of this transaction of your grades. I only calculate what you give me to work with. Not just, so she was telling me, woe is me. I got 4 children and blah, blah, blah. I'm listening, but I'm listening to her going, Jesus. Okay. So she says, what? I says, well, I want to say something, but you got to give me permission to say it. She said, I'll give you permission to say it. I said, are you sure? She said, I'm sure. I leaned in and said, don't nobody owe you nothing.
Mm.
You had them 4 kids at 32. You signed up for this class. She busted out crying. Busted out crying. Let me just tell you something. See, we hold back saying, oh, the entitlement generation makes me want to puke. Okay. And let me tell you what happened. No. I said, look, you want my help? Get your work in the next 48 hours and I will grade it. I gave her that chance after I jacked her up and she took it. Okay. That young lady 8 weeks later left there with an A. Matter of fact, in the next week, she went from failing to a C. The next week, failing to a B. To the next week, she left out of my course in that 8 weeks with a 92 because we spoke truth. We got to do that. And you can't do that if you are not being your authentic self. My dissertation was not in sync with the times back then. Spirituality and leadership, it was so linked to religion that people were afraid of it. Mm-hmm. And now, 5 years later, look what's happening with me. And it's also the timing. What changed in me to where it's coming full circle and it's coming out and people are interested of the outcomes of my dissertation, which offended you years prior?
Well, but again, I think that's the perfect way to end this segment because I believe, despite all the negativity we see in mainstream media, God's plan is perfect. And we just have to get in alignment with the purpose that He has for our lives. And when we get in purpose, in alignment with that purpose, you called it an assignment, which I love. We all have an assignment. Our responsibility is to fulfill that assignment. And so I think that's exactly what you're doing. That's what I'm attempting to do. So, Dr. Press, I just want to say I really I wish we had more time. But this has been great. I'm so glad we connected again. I don't believe in accidents. The fact that I reached out to you from Asala, like we're going to meet in a couple of weeks. That's great, so forth. But I thank God for putting you into my life, and thank you for spending an hour with us on the Sacred Knock podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so and I'm gonna close with a quote from Dr. Pressey. She said, "Nobody owe you nothing. you, you gotta
You know
you
what?
gotta go out there and make stuff happen and trust God to
Okay,
do what you need to do."
I want to give you my life quote. It's on everything. If you see it on my email,
Okay.
every job is a self-portrait of the person who does it.
Mm.
So autograph your job by becoming extraordinary,
Right.
extraordinary through excellence.
I like
I've had many. I cannot, that one has been years. That is what I live here. And it was unknown. And then I, did a little tweaking of it. But we're supposed to be excellent.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And
That's
so
that's
be excellent.
the
It's what he asked for.
yeah. And so I'm gonna close with this quote, one of my favorite quotes, and it says, "Who I am is God's gift to me. What I make of myself is my gift to God." We'll see you next episode.
Amen. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Sacred Knock Podcast. We hope this episode has inspired you to listen more closely to the whispers of your own soul. If this message moved you, why not share it with someone you love? Because you never know who's waiting to hear their own sacred knock. If you'd like to dive deeper and download the free ebook, When God Knocks, 5 Divine Reminders to Reignite Your Soul, simply log on to www.knockknockbook.net to download your free gift today. Until next time, stay open, stay tuned in, and always remember the divine is already within you.